so this is the car buying webinar. That this is so that people have a better way of navigating the car buying transaction, just navigating the entire process. So we're gonna go through the entire thing. So if you're, so yeah, get ready, take some notes, all that good stuff. It's gonna run for about an hour, and that'll be it. So, why does car buying matter? So, buying a car can have a large impact on your life and your finances. For example, if you buy an $80,000 car, then you lose your job after a year, and then you try to sell it. Bad news is you're upside down on the car, and you can't afford to pay it off, and you can't afford to keep making the payments because you lost your job. So, what do? This is like a nightmare scenario, and this is one of the ones where they say prevention is better than recovery. As an athlete, I'm big on preventing injuries as opposed to recovering from injuries or having to have something repaired. So it's always better to prevent something from happening than to have to recover from it. And so this car webinar is to prevent you from getting in those nightmare situations when you're upside down, you lost a job, you got negative equity, and you don't know what to do with your car. There's kind of no good options for you. So that's why, we say this is why car buying matters. And then secondly, if you're overspending on your car, that's money that you could have been investing. Like the average car payment right now is I think like $600. Um, you know, if you could cut it down by $200 and invest and save that money, that's gonna do that $200 a month is gonna do more for you than the car that you have. Especially in the long term. Um, that's why it matters because in the end, the extra money that you can save from saving money on a car, that can help you retire faster. And when you're 60 years old, do you want to still be working because you got these expensive ass cars paying five, six, seven, $1,000 a month for a car, or would you like to retire, when you're 50 and you know drive a little bit older car, but be able to save more money and have more freedom on your hands? That's the question that we ask, and that's why we do these webinars for people that make that second decision and say, hey, you know what? I don't need the latest car. Give me my freedom. I'd rather be smart with my money and get freedom in the long run. So that's what we do. This through the Texas. We're registered through the Texas Securities Board. We provide full service financial planning services and specialize in investment management services. Our specialty is helping working professionals become high net worth individuals. That's what we are all about. Here's my car buying journey. The first car I ever had or owned I really didn't own it. I was borrowing. My grandmother let me use her '88 Cadillac. Um, and felt like it weighed 4,000 pounds. It had a shot transmission, but I had to get away while I was at college at UNT, University of North Texas. I had to get away to get to my job at Walmart. And so she let me use that car. Um, and it had a shot transmission, like I said, and it weighed so much, like it struggled to go uphill. Like the only way I could get speed is by going downhill. Um, and so, yeah, it had a tape player, tape player radio. Um, I don't think it had air conditioning. um, but when you're in your 20s and you in college, you're just trying to make it. It is what it is. So after having that car for like 6 months, I got this purple monstrosity, and my Camaro was actually purple. I actually bought it I bought it for $1,500 off Craigslist. My thinking was that I could just paint it black. I'm saving money on the purchase, so I can just paint it black, and we'll be good to go. Um, that was a hard lesson to learn because I had that car for maybe about a year, I think, and I had to put, water and radiator fluid in it anytime I was driving over 30 minutes. Um, it was a T top. So if you don't know what that is, like it's where you can like take the roof off in two pieces, and it has like a line down the middle, and it's called a T top. Um, but that leaked when it rained, and leaked like really bad. It had like so many mechanical issues, suspension issues. It was a total piece of shit, and I couldn't even get it painted black. I grew up always hearing those Mako commercials where it's like a $3.99 paint job or whatever, and so I'm like, well, I can just throw $400 on it, get it painted, we good to go. What I didn't know was that it was like $400 per panel, so it was $400 for the hood, $400 for this part over this tire, $400 for the front bumper, $400 for the door, $400 for that, 400 for the back, 400 for the trunk, 400, and then and by the time you're around the whole car, you're looking at what's $4,000, and you paid $1,500 for the car, so that wasn't an option for me. That car ended up blowing up one day. I was after I graduated college, after I graduated undergrad, it started smoking white smoke like through the vents. um, and so I'm like, well, this car is about to blow up, and I don't want to be in it when it does. So traded that in and got a Toyota Camry from CarMax. Now here, like I clearly needed a car. I was like, hey, like they gave me $500 for this car, basically for parts. And I think my payments on this were, I think it was like $400 a month. And this was in 2013, 2014, something like that. Um, and I think it was $15,000, I think. But why did I get a Camry? Because after having every issue that I couldn't even imagine would be an issue in this car, I wanted just the safest, simplest, easiest to own car, and I got me a Camry. The mistake I made with this car is that I felt like I was gonna, I was at like the end of my budget, and so when they were offering add-ons, the last one they offered, like they offered all these other add-ons, I'm just like, no, 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 no. Then she offered gap insurance. I'm like, no, don't want that shit neither. That was my mistake with this car because after I think maybe 2 years of owning it, I was leaving my second job while I was in grad school, and a car came off the exit ramp going easily like 90. He ran a blinking red light. I had a blinking yellow, and basically totaled the car. Um, and how did that leave me? I still owe money on the car, didn't have gap insurance, and so I had a balance on my credit. So that was a mistake with that one. This car, um, I actually loved my Sonata. Never had any real problems with it. Only issue I had with it was when I was living in Florida, I took it to like a little shady mechanic, and I got a battery replaced in it, and they put like a battery that was too small for the car in it. And then also I took it to like another place and got new tires, and one of the tires, like they screwed in the lug nut so hard to where I had to get like melted off, and I had to get like a brand new like post for the screw for the lug nut. But outside of that, I had no real issues with this car. Loved it. Had it paid off. I was enjoying not having a car note. But then, just my luck, somebody breaks into my apartment garage and steals the car. So now I have a Lexus. Love this little car. My payments are what, 360 a month, I think. Um, Overall, including interest, I would have paid $20,000 for this car. So I got a great deal. Um, Comfortable payments, quality car, and yeah, I feel like now I'm at the point where I've learned enough lessons that I can, kind of share with other people to avoid some of the other mistakes I made, and some of the mistakes you hear that people go through, whether it be social media or just in your personal life. Um, so that is where we are now. So I want to start by doing a little reprogramming and how we think about cars. So the biggest difference between a new car and a 2018 car is what? It's a big ass touchscreen. Like so many of like the 2024, 2025, and some of the 2026s, they just got so like it's just screens everywhere. It's just one big screen. And you have to ask yourself, if it has all the same features, is a touchscreen worth the extra thousands of dollars that I'm going to be paying? The newer cars have like more random features, like they have refrigerated like storage spaces, additional storage spaces, things like that. But it's like, you know, does that make a real difference on your experience owning the car, driving the car? To me, I would say it doesn't. You know, to me, I don't think there's a real value in paying tens of $1,000s more for a car and it's not flying. Like to me at this point, I'm like, yo, I'm really not spending a lot of money on a car until we have flying cars. Like that'll be, my new thing. Um, so yeah. Uh, so that's what I was saying. We've been programmed to think about cars a certain way, to think the necessity of cars. When you think about like all the toys we had, video games, Ken and Barbie. Ken and Barbie need a car. Why do they both need a car? They go to the same place. They ain't got no job. Why do they both? We're just like subconsciously programmed over our entire lives. Cars and movies, cars and TV shows. It's all like built to make us, think that we gotta have these cars. We gotta have it this way. It's gotta have, it's gotta look like this. It's gotta have that feature, and you know, it's all just so we can, spend our money buying cars. So I want to reprogram that and kind of scale back our thinking on, what a car really is. One of the biggest things I want to focus on is that a car is a financial liability. It is not an asset. Assets appreciate in value and assets make you money. There is not a car you can buy that is appreciating in value and making you money. It is a depreciating liability. So just remember to keep that in mind. Like when we think about it that way, you know, then some of the other issues that we have with the financing of cars, they become clearer on how to handle because we're looking at it from the point of this is a depreciating asset. It's not going to ever make me any money. So I'm not going to treat it as such. All right, so the goal for today is to get what you want with what you can afford. So we're going to go over all of that. What can you afford? We're going to go through all of that. I want to make sure that we are using practicality in our car buying experience. I want us thinking about the financial impacts of our car purchases, but I also want to give you ways of still getting the car that you want, that you're comfortable driving, and that you enjoy owning at the end of the day, because you are spending thousands of dollars and you should enjoy your purchase. You should enjoy what you get for it. It's not just about saving money and buying the cheapest car available. It's all about balance. Even when I'm doing budgets for clients, I focus on balanced approaches because that's what's sustainable in the first place. If I budget you money and I'm like, oh no, you need to be saving $3,000 a month put that in your investments, and you only make $5,000, you got to live off $2,000. That's not sustainable. You're gonna revert back to something else, and you're not really learning how to live in a balanced way of enjoying your life while still accomplishing your goals. So here is our car buying process. You don't have to do them in this order, but you do need to do all of them. Some you do need to do in like a particular order, like you can't negotiate the price first. So I would say all these you can kind of do in any order, but well, I guess down to six. Once you like negotiating price needs to be the last thing you do. Like you can do all this other shit first, but the last thing you need to do is negotiating a car. Is negotiating the price. So first things first, let's set our budget. Some people try to say all your car expenses should be less than 10% of your gross income. What is your gross income? It's that big number on your paycheck that you don't see in your bank account. So it's a number that comes before all the taxes, all the deductions, all the automatic withdrawals, all of that. That's your gross. Most times people think, most of these times, people try to max out your car note to your gross. Typically, when someone's telling you 10% of your gross, they sell cars or they work in the car industry. And so that's why they're telling you that, so that you're conditioned to think, oh, 10% of your gross is normal. And it's like, why are you budgeting off of your gross pay? Like, budget off the money that you take home. Like, I understand that banks and apartments, even, mortgages, they operate on your gross, but the smart way of budgeting, the smart way of managing your money is to focus on what we take home. And that's what we're going to do. So, can't really like predict some of the other car expenses, like gas, maintenance, insurance. God, I don't know your driving history. You might have multiple tickets. You might have multiple wrecks. Your insurance might be high. So I try to say, at the end of the day, your car note should be less than 10% of your car. The goal is to get that as low as possible. If you know you're going to have high insurance, then let's negotiate. Keep that in mind when you're looking for a car and when you're negotiating for a car. That you have to make room for your insurance payment. But we want everything. We want to try our best to keep all our car expenses under 10% of our take-home pay. So I like to share some data. This is basically like the quality of car based on the brand. This one over here, where my mouse is, the J.D. Power 2024 Vehicle Dependability Study. That is, this is for new cars for 2024. This one over here is for used cars. Well, this one is for cars after this data goes back over like a 20-year period. So this is kind of where we want to focus on because we focus on like used cars. But this just gives you an idea of, kind of what brands to look for, what brands to avoid. Like you see some commonalities over here. Buick up here is kind of crazy, but hey, whatever. But you kind of see, and you kind of see some patterns in here. You'll see some similar, cars not doing too hot. So yeah, and just word to the wise, a little tidbit: 2024 model cars, like across the board, every car. Like manufacturing, every car, model, brand, they all went down. Like they're all like collectively worse than the previous year. So if you're gonna buy a new car, don't recommend that. Look for a 2023 model. It's new enough, honest to God, and it'll probably save you some trouble in the long run. So your homework, when you're looking for a car, you have to know what you want. No one can do that for you. No one can can tell you what car you should buy and make you like a car. Like you have to know what you want. So in order to do that, um, know your budget, make a list of your needs and wants, do your research, and make a list of specific cars you're interested in. The key to this is that you need to understand that basically nobody can understand or knows your life better than you. So you have to understand what's really important to you, what will really fit your lifestyle and your needs, and base your possible options off of that. Because no one else can tell you better than you. We can play with budget spreadsheets and look at car data all day. None of it matters if you don't know what you want. So that is your homework. Let's go over being upside down. Sometimes you hear this term a lot. Basically, being upside down in a car is you owe $40,000, but the car is only worth $30,000. You're upside down, or you have negative equity of $10,000 on the car. This typically happens two main ways. Number one is buying luxury cars. This is the easiest way to be upside down in a car because we'll go over some data in a couple of charts, but you can lose 40 to 60% of the value of the car after the first year on a luxury car. And now, you paid $100,000. A year later, it's worth 60. You paid $20,000 in car payments. And so, maybe depending on your interest rate, you owe 90 left on the car. You owe 90 and the car is worth 60. That's on the high end. That's 40%. It could be worth 40. So I typically say that's why, like, hey, if buying a luxury car, don't do a new car. So yeah, there's that. There are horror stories of this happening even when you have used cars, because, and in those situations, someone ended up overpaying on the car. Like the car was only worth 30,000, but you paid 35, and it depreciates, and you might have bought a bad brand. You might have bought a cheap Wrangler with 60,000 miles. You thinking everything's cool, everything's sweet, and after 40,000 miles of that you put on it, now the car's falling apart. But you still owe on it, and you owe more because you paid above the market value for the car. So we're gonna go over some tactics and strategies to avoid that happening to you. The appreciation. This is just the devaluing of the car over time. That's all it is. There are very rare situations when you can find a car that depreciates slow enough that it holds enough value for you to build any equity in the vehicle. When we talk about equity, that's before you paid off the car loan. That's before you paid off the car loan for the car. The entire depreciation of a car concept is to condition people to keep paying and buying cars every 4 years. That's why you hear like so many car people talking about, oh, the depreciation this, you want to take that, they want to convince you that the depreciation of your car is such a bad thing and you got to get out of that car by getting in a new car. And that's just not the way to handle depreciation. The best way to handle depreciation is to own a car, pay it off, and to keep driving that car after it's been paid off. That's how you handle depreciation. Get your money's worth for buying that car. Drive it till the wheels fall off. That's how you handle depreciation. Getting in a new car every 4 years, every 5 years, whatever the case may be, that's not how you handle depreciation. That's how you stay in a rat race of always paying for a car, and you're never able to adjust and start making smarter, bigger, better moves with your money because it's always going to a car. So keep that in mind. So when do you buy new? I honestly don't recommend ever buying new. There are only a few situations when I think it's good to buy a new car over a used car. The chart you see are the cars with the highest appreciation. Buying one of these cars is the easiest way to get upside down in your car. when do I think buying a new car is a good idea? The year's 2025. Let's say you find a 2024 model car that's brand new, like on the dealership, on the lot. That's a scenario where it's can be advantageous to buy a new car because you're going to get a great deal on the car because the dealership wants to get rid of it. Guarantee you that. Um, and it's still a new car. Like it'll have 70 miles on it. Um, so that's that's a scenario when buying a new car can make sense. But honestly, God, in general, I just don't recommend it. I just don't recommend it at all. Here, you can see the depreciation, over time and how much your car is losing value. And once again, this is how you end up upside down on these cars. And then, you start putting miles on them, and now they start falling apart. Like, the BMW starts falling apart because you drove too much. You hit that 100,000 mile range, and things don't start working. Things aren't working the same as they used to. So if you were to buy a new car, this is a list that I would recommend looking at. Um, as you can see, the depreciation is much lower on these than some of the other ones. And if you don't want like a sports car, like one of the Porsches, Porsche in general is typically like a good car. They hold their value, they last a long time. So I wouldn't have an issue buying a new Porsche. The only issue is like you're paying a lot for a new car, and there's just not a massive difference in the features that you're paying for compared to a used one. And then with cars like Porsche, like you can't tell like a 2000 Porsche from like a 2020 Porsche. Like they don't change their body type over time. So it's like, what are you paying for? So after you looked at all the data, it's time to decide on a car. At this stage, you know what you want, and now it's just about finding it and working out a deal. This is when you're able to gauge your negotiating power by seeing how many of the cars are available in your area and at what price. It's very easy to negotiate a car down when you know that, hey, if you don't take this deal, I can just go down the street and get this from somebody else. It's very easy to do that, and you won't know if you can do that if you don't do the research. So that's why we start with research. Make sure we're looking at cars.com, we're looking at edmunds.com, we're looking at just multiple car websites to get a good deal, to get a good idea of the value of our car, of the car we want. So next step is getting your financing in order. Like I said, this doesn't have to be in order. You can do this like at the dealership. Typically, you want to go through like a smaller bank, a regional bank. They tend to give the best interest rates. Um, if you're paying over, if you've gotten a pre-approval from a car, and it's over 10%, go to a local bank and see what they will give you. Capital One does this a lot. Because they just do it through their phone, do the app on their phone. It's a very easy process, but you end up paying for how easy it is and the convenience by getting a high interest rate. When I was looking for a car, I got pre-approved for Capital One for like up to $60,000, and it's like 14.5%. The regional bank ended up getting my loan through was 5% interest, and so that saves you a lot of money over time. So just keep that in mind. Typically, credit unions will give you your best interest rate, and then after that, it's the local bank. So if you can get to a credit union, try to go through your credit union. But if not, a local bank is going to be your better option. Then test drive. Test drive each car on your list. I don't care if you have 6 cars. I had a client when it was time for her to get out of her Jeep Wrangler that was dying. We made a list and she test drove all 6 of those cars because the only way you're gonna know is to drive. Like there is just no way around it. Um, so yeah, things you want to check for when you're doing your test drive: check for noise levels, check for sounds, check for the drivability. Like how does it accelerate? How does it brake? How does it turn? What's the handling? Even if you love the first car you drive all the cars on your list because that's the only way you have a benchmark and know like what's standard on all cars and how they compare to each other. So, for example, like when I was coming out of my 1995 Camaro and going to a 2008 Camry, I didn't know what features were like common, what features were like standard on, later on those later model cars because I only been in one. I was only in a Camry. Like that was it. I don't know what other features were available at that time. So you want to be able to make sure that you have a good idea of what's on the market, what's available to be bought. And the only way to do that is by test driving these cars. And then I would recommend, test drive like top of the line. Like go look at the brand new car. Like, if you're looking at looking at a Lexus, go look at the latest model Lexus, like the 2008. See what that looks like, and then compare it back to the 2018, the 2019, 2020. See what it's like. That way, for yourself, what's really a new feature, what difference does it make, is it worth it? You have the information for yourself. So some keys when going to your dealership. This is your list of what to take to the dealership. No ammo means be ready to tell them no. They are going to offer you a lot of shit. Have your nose ready, lined up and ready to give them. Take a calculator. You can avoid a lot simply by doing math on what they tell you. Trust but verify. And if you start seeing that they say, the things that they say aren't matching up. If you said, "Oh, I want to pay," we negotiate $20,000 for this car, but then the payments that when you do the math on your payments is not adding up to 20,000, then it's like, all right, like I know there's interest in that. There's probably going to be interest in that, but you can calculate the interest. So it's like things should all add up with what they're saying. So just make sure you do that. Take food. Drink water. Don't go in there drinking like energy drinks and you don't want to have like a sugar crash while you're at the dealership. And I always say, don't make big financial decisions. Don't make really any big decisions on an empty stomach. You don't want to be hangry at the car dealership. Like, you don't want to do that. Take some food. Make sure you can get some food. Don't go in there hungry. You're just not going to be thinking at your best. You don't want to just be signing papers away because, I ain't eating 7 hours. And now you done signed up for, a $5,000 warranty because you're not thinking right. So just avoid that. So when we're going through the negotiation process, negotiation doesn't have to be hard. Just be transparent about what you want. The reason we start with research is so that we're not stuck in an information disadvantage with the salesperson. Typically speaking, buying a car, selling a car, it's all about information asymmetry. When someone doesn't know a lot about cars, they don't know the value of their car, they don't know the value of like other cars, they don't know how the process works. they are easy to to be taken advantage of by people, by the dealerships, by the salesperson, by the manager, by the finance manager. That's why you want to, that's what this webinar is for, so that you don't have that information asymmetry. So, people that get taken advantage of, the car dealerships information is here and their information is down here. But you guys, like, you'll be up, you're like, it'll be more even exchange. And so you won't be taken advantage of that way. During negotiations, I'm not really a fan of like some of the theatrics of, walking out and, getting upset. Just be direct, be clear, be firm. That's enough. Getting doing the walk. Now, if you feel like you're being disrespected, that like they're just talking to you like you're crazy, then I understand like walking out. But make sure you're communicating your wants. And then sometimes it's okay to not get what you want. Just go to another dealership. Like like that's part of it. Um, so we're gonna go through the buying process of negotiating. First off, don't negotiate on a car that you do not want. You're wasting everyone's time. So make sure you're wasting your time. Make sure you have the car that you want. The salesperson will try to distract you and argue like all these random points. Don't worry about that. Just focus on the price and getting a discount. And just to reiterate, we don't focus on the payments. Never negotiate on the payments. Negotiate on the overall price of the car. That's what you want to focus on. Payments can be, rearranged and you can extend the term and all this other shit. But you want to focus on the price of the car. That's what you're negotiating on. So if like salespeople, what they often do is, if you say, okay, I want this car, they're like, oh, what do you want your payments to be? You just ignore that. You say, well, I see you have the sticker at $20,000. Can you do 17? Take it back to the overall price of the car. Don't worry about what the payments are. I give you some like negotiating like phrases you can say after you test drive the car. You can like if some people are uncomfortable negotiating, you just say, okay, I like this car. Can I negotiate the price? So what you're doing is you're subconsciously telling yourself, hey, he's giving you permission to negotiate. And so now like you have a clear, what I'm saying? Like you don't have to be like anxious or nervous because you've literally asked for permission to negotiate for the car. So you're free to negotiate. Now you can negotiate. And then always ask for at least 10% off. Whatever the sticker is, just always ask for 10% off. And if they ask you, where'd you get that number? Just say, you can either show them like, if you have a similar car that's that price, you can show them that. Or you can say, my budget is tight. This is, this will make affording my car note or affording the car a lot easier. If they ask you, where'd you get that number from? For one, that means that you're asking for, if you hear that phrase, you typically know you're getting a good deal. Because that's like salesperson's like initial reaction when they hear a price that's really cutting their profits down. So, when you hear that, just go like, hey, I got a tight budget, just bring it back to like, your budget. Because that's something that they can't really argue. If you say, oh, well, that's the car I want to pay, that's the price I want to pay, well, then like you'll just get in like a back and forth. But like, it's like, hey, this is my budget. I don't have, my finances are tight right now. I want to make sure I'm in a good position that I can always make these car payments. Say something like that. When you respond with like logic, they typically they're like, all right, you won't get into the hard confrontations. Like they might not be able to do that price. They might, bring it back up a little bit. Um, but or they might try to bring it back up, but that's always a good phrase to go with. Also, know when it's time to stop negotiating. When I had my client getting out of her Wrangler, and she was getting into a Lexus, she asked me, it was like, my payments will be, I think her payment's like $300 because she's getting like a 2% interest rate on a fully loaded 20, I think it's a 2017 Lexus, um, like fully loaded Lexus SUV at that. She asked me like, "Is this a good deal?" I was like, "Your payments are how much? Like $310? Yeah, that's a good deal. You can drive that car for 300,000 miles, and you're not paying anything for it. Like, or at the end of the day, even with interest, she'll be paying less than $20,000 for that car, and she's getting a nice, fully loaded luxury car. So yeah, um, and so yeah, you get to a point when you have to decide you're gonna take it or leave it. If they won't reduce the price anymore, that's time for you to decide: am I gonna take it or leave it? Um, and then sometime when to walk away. If the price legitimately doesn't meet your budgeting limits, then walk away. You should have known that in the first place. Like, don't go try to get a car that you literally can't afford after you made your budget. Like, that's why we start with the first step. It's like, hey, we made our budget and we're looking for cars that fit our budget. So this really shouldn't be an issue. But if they like don't budge on the car at all, I will walk away. Like if they're not giving any type of discount, you know, I'll you can typically go somewhere else and get a discount. And like I said earlier, if you don't like the way you're being treated, they're being assholes or whatever, feel free to leave. All right. So when you're selling your car, couple things I want you to do. Make sure your car is ready to sell. Clean it up. Make sure there's no like check engine lights coming on. Make sure there's no, indicators coming, like make sure there's no like apparent issues with the car. Make sure there's no strange noise when you turn it on, when you drive, none of that. Because when they appraise a car, um, you don't want them to find anything that they can use to lower the value of the car. Because that's what they're trying to do. Because that's more profit for them in the end of the day. When you are trading in your car, make sure know what you want and tell them what you want. If you still owe money on the car, that's kind of your starting point. If you owe $15,000 on a car, you need at least 15,000 on the car. Like that's where you start. If it's paid off, if the car is paid off, do some research. You can look on, Craigslist. Actually, you can try to sell it on Craigslist or Facebook or whatever. That'll give you an idea of what the market value is, or like a range of it. It's not necessarily accurate, because if you can't sell it on Craigslist, that means that the market value that you have, the price that you set, isn't the real price. That means you couldn't sell it. Nobody's buying it. The market value is only accurate if somebody actually buys it for the price that you want. So just keep that in mind. How they're gonna evaluate your car is that dealerships, they use like the most recent auction data, for those cars, and that's where they get like their buy price from. The price you see for cars like on sale for used cars on a dealership, that's well above what they pay for it, because they're paying, a lot of times they're paying for auction. They're paying auction price for those cars. And the issue with, oh well, I saw it up for $20,000 on Facebook, and they're only offering you 10, is that they know that this car will sell for $10,000. If you only saw a car for sale on $20,000 and you might have posted your car for $20,000 but weren't able to sell it, that means that that's not accurate information. So that's what the difference is when between what people try to sell their car for and what a dealership is willing to pay for a car. Basically, they know that that this car sold for this amount at an auction, all the while you think you can sell a car on Facebook or Craigslist for this amount. That's the difference between those two. So I'm just giving you information to save yourself some time and to have a clear expectation of what to go in, of what you're going to get out of your trade-in at a dealership. Not saying you can't negotiate on that. Definitely try to get as much you can, but just know where the differences in those two prices of what you want and what they want are coming from. Like I said before, always trust but verify. Make sure they're not adding unnecessary fees or anything like that to your total. If you see them do that when you're going through with your calculator, you might just leave. I would probably just go to another dealership, just because you don't know what else they're trying to swindle you with. There might be an issue with the car that they're hiding. You just don't put yourself in that situation. As I would just say avoid that. Gap protection, you definitely want your gap protection. Like I said, when I had my Camry, that protects you from still owing money on the car if you still owe on the car. So yeah, get gap insurance. That is a necessity. Yeah, don't need to spend a lot of time on that. Buying a warranty. I typically stay away from warranties. The point of showing all the car quality data and all that is so that we buy a quality car. So if we buy a quality car and then we get a warranty that we never end up using because we bought a quality car, we just wasted money on that warranty, right? So yeah, that's just keep that in mind. I had a client, she was going through the car buying process, and she did so much right. She negotiated a discount on the car, on the overall price of the car. But then they, it was like, oh, well, do you want a warranty? And the warranty they sold it was for $5,000, and I've never seen a warranty be that high. But she was like, yeah, sure. And so she took the price of her car from $20,000 to $25,000, just like that. And she didn't tell me that she was getting a warranty, or else I would have told her not to. But that was her decision. But overall, she still got a good car, has decent payments. It just could have been better without getting the warranty. So yeah, like I said, we focus on quality cars so that we don't need to get a warranty. Let's skip the client stories. I've kind of shared those while I've been talking. So this is a little quick sheet of cars that are typically that you can drive for over 100,000 miles, over 200,000 miles, and pay less than $30,000 for them. Almost any car made by these manufacturers are pretty much going to be good. There is an issue with Honda. More recently, some of the later model cars, they switched from a timing chain to a timing belt. It's not a huge issue, but it is just something that has to be replaced over time. Um, but if you like everything else about the Honda, I wouldn't let that uh, take you away from making that choice. So um, yeah, that that's those are the cars I recommend, typically speaking. So if you're still here and you felt like this has been valuable information, I just want to tell you about my company a little bit. Like I said earlier, we specialize in growth strategies to help everyday working class citizens become high net worth individuals. We do that through stock market strategies that I have outperformed the S&P 500 for about 4 years. And then I'm more affordable than most advisors. I don't charge like a fee for advising. I don't charge a fee for planning, whatever you want to call it. Like they call it different things, but a lot of advisors they'll have like an annual fee that you have to pay them. I typically work with clients without paying anything out of their pocket, or nobody pays me directly anything out of their pocket. My fee comes exclusively from the money that I manage for you, and so that's it. Um, so yeah, that's this is just a little flyer. If you're going through any of these issues, financial matters, these are things that we can help with, that I can help with. If you have any questions, want to follow us on socials, schedule an appointment, you can do that by scanning these QR codes. Hey, we made 53 minutes. Let's go. Um, yeah, that's it. That's me in a nutshell. So thank you for watching this. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are, and have a good one.